Hello everyone, Coach Carole is back with you to show you what's changed in Chat GPT very recently. I'm over here in my Chat GPT 4 account and you can see quite a bit of difference already. I've actually clicked on this button here, Explore, which shows me now that I have my own GPTs. I've created two of these. One is called the Family Historian Artificial Intelligence Writing Guide, and the second one is Ancestry Artificial Intelligence Research Guide. I'll show you a little bit more about those in a moment. But below those, there are some other very useful GPTs that have been created by Chat GPT itself, or at least OpenAI has created them, and you'll see one featuring prominently here because I use it frequently now. This one is called the Creative Writing Coach. So these GPTs are the latest thing in how you can use artificial intelligence. But let's go back a little bit. I click on Chat GPT here on the top to get a brand new page and a space for a new conversation. It looks a little more familiar to how it looked a couple of weeks ago with the typical questions down here. And you'll notice another difference here. It shows me which one or which part of ChatGPT I'm currently using. In this case, it's ChatGPT 4, which now includes DALL-E 3 for creating images, browsing the internet, and deep data analysis. If you wanted to just go back to GPT 3.5, you would click here, and you can still collect your plugins as before from this link below. Let me show you some of the ways in which I've been using these new GPTs. First of all, I'm going to show you what I had done the other day. I wanted to transcribe and explain an old will and testament for one of my ancestors. I'm just scrolling to the top here. It always leaves you at the bottom of that conversation. Is a little bit annoying. However, what I wanted to do was ask it to transcribe and explain an old will. And you'll notice here that it's using the Family Historian Artificial Intelligence Writing Guide, which is one of my created GPTs. At first, I thought it would take a PDF. Not so. What it's looking for is a JPEG image. So I was able to do that and was uploading. I have uploaded these 2 pages of the will, handwritten, and you'll see them side by side here. My prompt was transcribe and help me add in narrative format to my story about my ancestor. In this case, her name is Rosina Terry. So back it comes with the transcription of the will, first of all. And it puts it into an area where, I'll just move things around on my screen. I can copy the code that it's created here and use it somewhere else, say in a Google document or something. But it transcribed both pages very well. So I won't go through all of the description because it's written in that stilted language of the old wills of the 1920s. And it was signed and dated in 1923. It goes on to describe then what this will was really all about. So it's now answering the second part of my prompt. Please explain the importance of the will itself and to put it into a narrative style. So it's done that here, talking about the fact that she's undertaking a solemn task. It didn't quite read the full address, but I've amended that, of course, in my own transcript. Goes on to describe how she commenced by nullifying all prior testamentary dispositions, how she appointed 2 stewards, her son, George, and her nephew, Osborne. Now, that's a useful piece of information picked out because I can now go back and track who exactly is Osborne Hammond. And alongside Mark Street, a brother-in-law. So that gives me a clue also about one of her siblings having married someone by the name of Street. In fact, Mark Street. Then it goes on to describe the first bequest, which was of a personal nature to her son, George. And she left her leasehold house and a monetary gift, and bestowed upon Osborne and Mark, her trustees, £10 each. So this is great information now expressed in a much more readable way. And I can use that in my story that I'm building up for my great aunt. So I had a look then for, it's jumping around here, sorry, for the probate entry for Rosina, and I've got that seen here. I've uploaded it and asked it to transcribe this probate document, and back it comes with very useful and interesting text that once again I can copy. I went on a little bit further and I wanted a tabular display of the people showing the relationships and birth dates that are handwritten in the 1921 census. And this is a couple of years before the will was written and a few years before other children were born to Rosina. So here is that tabular display giving the names, their age, their marital status, their occupation, and a guess at their birth year, which I was able to update later. So then I wanted to use that information in a tabular format, but I was unsure how to get that because it won't come out in that neat little table. So I asked it, how can I do this? What's the best way for me to download the table and keep its structure? And the easiest, of course, was to copy and paste it into a spreadsheet, which is what I've done. So over here is that spreadsheet, and I've been able to transcribe, or at least transform it into something workable here that I can add to, and you'll see I've begun to do that with details of further children and the death of her husband later. Coming back to Chat GPT once more, I wanted to show you a couple of other examples. So I'm going to go now to another of these, which was this one here. And in my family, we have many tailors. And in this case, I wanted to find out what fashion factors influenced tailoring in the early 20th century in England. And this time it's using my Ancestry Artificial Intelligence research guide. And it has come back with a very useful description of the fashion influences in that time period, describing the Edwardian era, the pre-war period, the influence of World War I, post-war changes, the technological advancements, cultural shifts, and so on. So it's given me a nice, neat snapshot of what it was like for my tailoring ancestors in that period. So a very useful way in which I can use these AI guides. But how did I get the guides? Let me go back and show you what they are. Let's first of all go to the AI. Ancestry AI Research Guide. And it built its own little icon for me and described the purpose of the guide from instructions that I gave it. And below are some typical questions that I might use to answer questions directly, like this one that I've just shown you. The fashion factors of influencing tailoring in the early 20th century. But how did that information get there? Let's go deeper into the guide now and show you what it looks like by editing it. And you'll see on the left, it gives me a space where I can continue to talk to the GPT builder. And if I go into the configure page of this part of the screen, I'll see the results of what I have given it in the way of instructions. So I gave it the name and the description. Then comes the instructions, which include the role and the goal of this ancestry guide, a little bit like your prompts that we have been famously and religiously tailoring to our needs as we use Chat GPT. This takes care of all of that in the one place. I can now edit anything that's in there that describes and gives instructions, and I can also add or delete or edit any of these conversation starters that appear over here on the right-hand side, which is what you'll see when I use the Ancestry AI Research Guide. The knowledge that it uses can be from uploaded files, and its capabilities include web browsing and DALL-E image generation. And I haven't ticked the code interpreter because I'm not sure what that will do. So that's how this GPT was created. If I've made any changes to it, I can save it on the top right-hand corner. And I can save it for just me or anyone with the link. So that's an important step if you want to share it with others and you've made changes. You then would need to copy that new link. And that allows people to view your GPT and use it. Coming back now on the GPT drawing board. We now see that particular guide in this page, as I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial. And here is the other one. So if I wanted to edit that one, I can once again click into it and edit. I can copy its link and share it with other people. It's made a huge difference to the way in which I can now use Chat GPT for my research and my storytelling. So one of the things that I did recently was to improve the Rosina Will article. So I'm flipping back to that conversation, scroll to the top. And I had asked, as you saw me do before, I had asked ChatGPT to give me a better way to describe the impact of this will. And so what I've done here is I've simply copied in that text that ChatGPT has provided. And now I'm asking it to provide feedback and suggested improvements for this article, which is something that this GPT does very well, the creative writing coach. It was one that has been created by OpenAI, so I'm not able to edit it, but I can copy the link and share that. Below is what it has done for me. It has now analysed the content and looked at the historical context, the detailed description, the character insight, and engaging narrative. These are headings that it uses frequently when it's doing this type of work. And below, it's given me suggestions for improvement, such as the opening and closing could be more impactful. Consider starting with a more intriguing hook that draws the reader in. Use of active voice. In some sections, passive voice has been used. I quite often find that in my writing, so having it pointed out here is useful. Emotional depth. It's saying that while the article is informative, it could benefit from a deeper exploration of the emotional implications of Rosina's decisions. Historical accuracy. It's now suggesting that I check legal age of majority in the UK in 1923 to ensure that the will is contextually appropriate. The visual elements, it's now suggesting that if this is an online or print publication, consider adding photographs or illustrations. And this I particularly like. It's given me a title refinement. Instead of that one that I had begun with, it's suggesting I change it to The Legacy of Rosina Elizabeth Terry, a 1923 will unveiled. And then gives a complimentary paragraph at the end. So now I got quite a bit of information about how I can make that paragraph or those paragraphs even more interesting to read. So that's an exploration of 3 of my now most favorite GPTs in OpenAI. I hope you've enjoyed this brief wander through them. And of course, if you've got any questions and you want to see more or learn more, I invite you to join my courses in the Preserving Family History Academy, and I'll put a link for that below this video. I'll be back with more at another time. Bye for now.